If you're an Amazon seller that is trying to position your Amazon business in the best way to be sold off and for the highest multiple possible, then keep watching this video because I'm about to be talking with John Elder from Black Label Advisor, and he's going to be giving us 5 things to avoid when selling your Amazon business. So let's jump into it. What's up, John? Thanks for jumping on this video with me, man.
Ian, it's so great to be here. It's an honor to be here. It's actually kind of funny how we connected, but it's a small world, isn't it, in the Amazon space?
Yeah, man, and appreciate the referrals you sent my way. Thanks for doing that and speaking highly of my agency. And so you're with a company, or you have your own company called Black Label Advisor, right?
Yeah. So it was born out of a need in the market. So my experience at Amazon has always been tied to finding and exploiting those niches, and so. The same thing happened when I made a pivot after my multi-million dollar exit from Amazon. I saw a need in the market. There's, really an overload of gurus, pitching the dream, really a fantasy. And then you had full management service companies. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no one to talk to as a consultant. And so that's where Black Label Advisor was born. So I'm a one-man show, but I work with brands all the way up to 8-figure brands, and basically help people grow their business correctly on Amazon, how to stay within terms of service on Amazon, how to expand internationally. I have clients from Taiwan to the UK, so I'm talking to people from different markets as well. So it's a pretty interesting niche that I'm in. There's really not anyone else that's doing this, so it's kind of an interesting journey so far.
Yeah, man. I mean, I really like the service that you offer because a lot of my clients even ask me like, I wish that I had someone to talk to, a little bit more hand holding, a little bit more guidance. And so like, if you can be that person, then that's definitely a service that a lot of sellers need.
Yeah, and I found it's really just a natural conversation. Most clients, for anyone listening, the most average client uses me for 1 or 2 hours each month, and that's going over like we could be going into the weeds. We can go into why is my BSR rank? Why is it plummeting on this one? So a lot of it's mystery solving, and a lot of it is going over rebranding, working with your team obviously to make sure that the photography and the video production is done right. And then I'm used by the client, the third-party seller, as advice. How do I want to structure my infographic? What do I want the us versus them picture to look like? What is important to show on a sizing chart, for example. So all of that type of stuff, copywriting, keyword research, I'm their advisor for.
Nice. Yeah, and just to let the viewers know like how we actually met real quick. So I have a marketing agency that helps a lot of sellers with revamping their listing when it comes to product photo shoots, product video shoots, and writing copy, SEO, all that kind of stuff. And John, so I guess you knew about our service to kind of revamp listings, and you just kind of told some people, hey, they should try us out. Is that what happened?
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. So I'll give options to people, and I'll recommend different service providers. And one of my clients decided not to go with my recommendations, and that's totally fine. And they wanted to do their own research, and they actually landed on you guys with Evolve. And I asked them after the fact. I didn't know they had hired you guys, and I said, who did your infographics? This is really good work. And they said, oh, it's Evolve. And I'm like, okay, I need to talk to Evolve, figure out who's running this operation, and see if there's some collaboration there. So yeah, we just met randomly through a client of mine. So it's kind of a crazy
Nice.
story.
Yeah, it's definitely a good one for sure. But anyway, so let's jump into the video. So when we originally spoke, you told me that you help a lot of businesses sell, a lot of Amazon businesses sell and cash out. And so I kind of, I get a lot of questions from sellers like, how should I position my business for an acquisition? And I feel like a lot of Amazon sellers make big mistakes when trying to position their Amazon business, or they don't even try to position it in the first place and they just list it for sale. And so, that kind of sparked the idea for this video, which was, what are those 5 things to avoid when selling your Amazon business? So let's start with number 1. John, what do you have for the first thing to avoid?
Yeah, I mean, number one is easily, revenue stagnation. So, any seller that sees kind of like, I'll just call it the dangling carrot, it's like, oh man, there it is. There's the exit, maybe it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe it's millions of dollars, that can give a false sense of security. And that could take away from, the fire that's under your butt, building your business. And so anytime buyers are when I say buyers, I'm including three camps. One is an individual buyer, that's kind of like I'll just call it a mom and pop situation.
Okay.
Very common. The other one's private equity, and then the other one is aggregator. So
Mm-hmm.
all three really are looking for like very similar things. They want a consistent growing revenue business. They want cash
Yeah.
flow to be growing, and they don't want anything to be stagnating. So whenever something stagnates, that typically tells a potential buyer that you've kind of given up on your business. That's actually what you want to avoid. So
Okay.
that's going to reduce your buyer pool, and that's also going to reduce your multiple. So if you have just a consistently strong growth record, we'll just say anything above 50% year-over-year growth, that's going to get you that multiple, between 4 and 8. So if you have a damaged, stagnating revenue record, maybe in the last 12 months, you're either not going to get a buyer, or someone will buy you and they'll just view you as a damaged asset. And they'll say like, okay, I'll give you like a 2x multiple. So that's really shooting yourself in the foot. And the key is just to stay focused and really separate in your mind those two things. There's the exit, and there's also running the business perfectly. And so you need to maintain those two things, and really keep the exit out of your head and just focus on, am I constantly innovating my products? Am I making them better? What's my end user experience? Maintaining my margins, dealing with Chinese sellers. So all those things you can't just give up on, because that's going to show in your financial statements.
Gotcha. Okay. And before we move on to the second thing to avoid, real quick, let's just define what multiple is. So my understanding of like the multiple is what you would, after you find that net, annual profit amount, let's just say it's 100 grand, then you would times that by 4 or 8, like John mentioned. John, that's what you mean by the multiple, right? It's the multiple of the actual net profit.
Yeah, of your whole business. So,
Okay.
buyers are going to be looking at your tax records. They're going to be looking at typically the last 2 years of your the tax reporting. This gets into point number two of financial reporting.
Yeah.
You want everything under one umbrella of your LLC. You don't want
Okay.
commingled businesses. You don't want your P&L statement to have you don't want to have that discussion with the buyer and say, oh, I'm going to exclude this revenue because of this reason. No, you want to run everything under one LLC. And whether that's a partnership LLC or an S corp, it doesn't really matter. Your LLC you will actually keep. So a buyer is not going to buy your business, they're buying your assets. So when we're talking about exiting, we're talking about, you are selling your Amazon account, you are selling any design patents you have, you're selling your trademark, you're selling all of your inventory, you're
Your
handing
customer
that over.
list.
What's that?
Your customer list, your email list, any kind of
Email list, Shopify
contact
sites.
information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every single asset you can think of outside of the legal entity is being sold.
So thing number 2 to avoid is confusing financial statements. Like John said, put it all into one place, make it very easy for a potential buyer to come in, look at your financial statements, and have a quick and easy understanding of how well and how stable and how healthy is your business financially.
Yep. And this is and I need to touch on this because I've kind of run into this with a couple clients. It's better to be running all of your private label products under one Amazon account. So buyers don't like to see commingled financial data of your retail arbitrage side and your private
Mm,
label side. So they want to see, let's say you have 3 brands and 25 SKUs. They want that under one Amazon account and nothing else. Because what
yeah.
happens is it gets really complicated, especially during due diligence. And for anyone listening, that's typically a couple-week period where a due diligence officer is reviewing your financial claims. And so they actually will go into your Amazon account and verify everything that you've said during the interviews. And so you don't want things to be confusing for that person. You want every Amazon report to line up with your tax records. So that's really important, because a lot of people are like, I'm just going to run both businesses. Amazon's not going to separate that data out for you. Any revenue that you're doing at Amazon is it's all commingled on a single financial report. So If you have to get a separate Amazon account, you just make a business case with Amazon. They may or may not approve that. Some clients I work with, they slowly are getting rid of their arbitrage side, and with the goal of being 100% private label. And then they're in their heads, they know that they're going to be running that for about 2 years before they would exit. So they need good, clean financials.
Awesome. Okay. So before we move on to the third thing to avoid when selling your Amazon business, let's quickly switch over to future Ian or a different Ian to talk about the sponsor of this video. Real quick, if you don't know me, my name is Ian Smith with Evolve Media Agency. We're an Amazon marketing agency that helps sellers boost the conversion rate of their product listings by creating photo and video content that drives shoppers to make a purchase. We actually put many of our conversion rate boosting strategies into our free Amazon listing checklist. You can get access to this by going to zonchecklist.com. At EMA, we help sellers rank higher, get more reviews, increase their PPC return on ad spend, bring in new customers through off-Amazon marketing strategies like Google search and email marketing and things like that. And we even help sellers obtain their Amazon customer data like their names, mailing addresses, emails, and phone numbers. So if you need help with scaling up your Amazon business, then book a free call with me by going to EMAAMZ.com. All right, so now let's continue on with the video. All right, and we're back to this Ian. All right, so John, go ahead with number 3. What is the third thing to avoid when selling your Amazon business?
Number 3 is just straightforward. Avoid account suspensions and listing suspensions. In every single interview, you're going to get asked this question: sir or ma'am, have you been suspended before? If you do, that's going to hurt your multiple, and you're going to lose a huge chunk of potential buyers. So run your business according to terms of service and run it as clean as you can. Stay away from the black hat stuff, obviously. The gray hat stuff, just be careful with that. I always encourage clients to be 100% white hat. So that's a really important point.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's hard to do, right? Because like the competition these days with all the Chinese sellers and the sellers around the world, it's getting fierce. People are okay with launching a business on Amazon and losing money for several months. So we understand that it can be very hard. Sometimes suspensions are not even within your control. Sometimes they just happen and you're like, that doesn't even make sense. How did that even happen? So we know this is a big ask, but obviously just try your best to try to avoid product suspensions and any kind of issues with your account. All right, so number 4, what is that fourth thing to avoid?
Number 4 is, this comes down to your revenue, kind of your revenue spread. So you don't want one home run product and then let's say 25 sub average products. So you want, let's say your revenue, it's split across 10 SKUs for your top 40% of revenue. And then you have some middle ground revenue streams. And then you have some, they're not so great. Maybe the net profit is, maybe 12% for some of those products, and the total revenue is not that great. So you kind of want a nice curve. Just call it like a bell curve. So you don't want one home run product and then the rest of your products are trash. You want to show a buyer that you have really innovated across the entire catalog of your brand.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so many times I see with clients that they do have this one flagship product that is like carrying 80% of their sales. And so it can be hard it's a challenge to cross-sell those customers and try to get those customers to try the other products in your lineup. But maybe you put off trying to sell your business for a little bit so that you can launch other products and try to diversify that revenue coming in across multiple products. So I agree with that fully. Yeah. So John, number 5, what's that last thing to avoid?
Number 5, this conversation has really changed in the last year or so. So now aggregators and potential buyers, they now do not want to see a 90-10 split. So 90-10 split is pretty common. 90% Amazon for your revenue. The 10% typically comes from Shopify and Walmart. They want to see a much, it's completely different outlook.
More diversified, balanced. Yeah. So probably like 25% coming from Amazon, 25% coming from Walmart.
75-25 is so I have relationships with aggregators. We're moving in a direction where they want to see a lot more revenue coming from your Shopify side. And Walmart is another one that they're going to be looking at, but they don't want to see 99% Amazon anymore. So that poses a risk to them. Yeah. And what happened was aggregators and buyers are realizing, oh my gosh, it's actually really risky to buy a brand that's 99% reliant on Amazon, So
Yeah.
they're kind of shifting. So your multiple will be higher. The more you're on Walmart, the more you're on Shopify, selling directly to a consumer, and you can showcase that. Also, don't discount your social media. You should be building that up, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Make sure your brand is everywhere and people can find you. So, they're definitely looking for those aspects.
Awesome. Well, obviously, guys, we know that these 5 things are going to be very difficult to check the boxes on all of them, right? Like to get a Shopify store with consistent sales is challenging because a lot of your customers want to buy from you from Amazon. A lot of people nowadays want to buy from you on Amazon. So we know that's a challenge. We know it's hard to avoid suspensions. We know it's hard to diversify, especially if you got that one winning product. So obviously, we're not telling you to completely and fully do all this. Obviously, it'd be great if you could, but as best as you can to make an effort, and the more you know, right, then the more you know about positioning your business to look better for a buyer. So John, any last words before we wrap this video up?
My just a small last tip: be authentic. Showcase who you are with your brand. For example, in your A+ content, for from the brand section, maybe put your face. Talk about what inspired the creation of your brand. Don't be a faceless brand. There's a million of those companies out there. Really infuse your personal story into who you are. That will help your conversion rates on Amazon.
I agree 100%. I say that in a lot of my YouTube videos, like have a person on camera talking about your product, showing off your product, real life video assets as well as photo assets, but definitely have a personality and people behind your brand. So thank you, John, for that tip. Thank you for jumping on this video and taking the time to shoot this. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you got some value from this video, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Great to be here.